Okay, so today I'm going to be shaping my weekly bread loaf, and you get to follow along and see how I do that. I actually do it a little bit different than the standard bread pans, and it works really well for my family. While I'm shaping, I'm also going to chit-chat a little bit about what sent me into home baking and making everything from scratch and having an ingredient kitchen. To start, this loaf is a fresh milled flour loaf, but the shaping that I'm doing really works for any sandwich bread loaf or loaf that you make routinely. Now, I don't do my rise in an oiled bowl, mostly out of convenience because it's one extra dish and one extra step to oil a bowl. So it's not a huge necessity in my eyes. So I am going to separate these into two separate loaves, well, sort of loaves. One will go as a full sandwich loaf, and I'll show you the rest. Now, baking from scratch and having an ingredient kitchen was never on my radar. And this really didn't pick up or kick in for me until after pregnancy, well, during early pregnancy and then postpartum. What I'm doing with this first loaf is just turning it into a nice sandwich loaf and shaping it with lots of surface tension. I love baking with parchment paper. I know it utilizes a consumable product, but so far it's what I have found is best for the rhythm of my home. Now, like I said, this is fresh milled flour, and the draw to fresh milled flour is the nutrient impact that it has. As I'm sure you have probably heard if you are familiar with fresh milled flour, the grains have 40 out of the 44 essential nutrients for life. The initial investment in a mill is big, but the blessing of making your own bread that is so packed with nutrients and so viable for life is so worth it. Now for the second loaf, I'm actually shaping it into 5 pieces. 4 of them I'm aiming to be about the same size. The reason is because these ones I actually turn into weekly dinner rolls to serve 2, to be clear, because those are quite large dinner rolls. As with my large sandwich loaf, I am folding, rolling to make surface tension. I shape out 4 dinner rolls that are larger. My husband and I share them, and of course a chunk goes to my little one. I like to do this because it saves time on creating individual rolls for each person, and I also really enjoy the texture of the fluffy interior. You get more of it when you have a bigger roll. There's less outer surface. Now, my kitchen in my household looked nothing like this 5 years ago. I hate to admit it, but we were a very unhealthy household when it comes to food. We were perpetually eating out, and if I am being completely honest, one of my go-to places was Taco Bell. I mean, I probably had Taco Bell 2 to 3 times a week. So terrible. But then, just as you can't unsee something, I couldn't unlearn how terrible the food we are consuming is for us. And it sent me into the depths of the internet of research and books, and I landed here where I make everything from scratch. We probably eat out 3 times a year, and our bodies are all the better for it. Now for this 5th piece of the dough, this is my test bake. Each week I portion off a small amount to add different add-ins, seasonings, herbs, fruit, nuts, anything of the sort, to explore different mix-ins and different flavor combinations without committing an entire loaf to it. This week I did garlic, thyme, and pepper, which sounds strange, but it was actually really delicious. I served it with a white sauce Italian chicken. Naturally, the knowledge of how terrible our food is sent me into the realm of making everything from scratch, but this video is just on bread. Other things that I like to bake are all of our crackers, corn tortillas. I am still working desperately to master flour tortillas. I need to admit that I need a tortilla press, or at least a cast iron tortilla press, because I am having terrible luck with my current situation. Fresh milled flour sounds intimidating, and it really is a learning curve, but once you have it down, for the most part, it really is simple. There's something so satisfying about feeling like you're connecting with your food in a rooted and traditional sense. Now, I'm going to have all of these loaves rise for about 35 minutes. Depending on the week and depending on the meal plan, sometimes we don't actually go through all of this bread in a week, and we do utilize our freezer. Freezing bread after it's been cooled really maintains the integrity of the texture, and majority of the times I can't tell that it's even been frozen and thawed. But of course you want it to let it cool entirely before you pop it in the freezer in a airtight container. My bread is baked. This one is my trial loaf. I was looking it over to see how it smelled and how it looked. For my meal plan this week, I have very little use for dinner rolls, so 3 of these are going to be frozen, and I'll leave 1 out, but it'll be perfect for next week's meal plan. I love these silicone Ziploc bags. They work so effectively at keeping food fresh, and also feel like I'm reducing waste and also not spending money on consumable items. But I do have to say, it was a learning curve. My first round, I actually stored lots of different very fragrant items in there, such as onions and garlic, and I didn't realize how strongly the bags would hold the smell. So, word for the wise, designate 1 bag for onions and 1 bag for other fragrant produce. Here I was just looking over all of the loaves and looking over the coloring. My toddler and I had a busy afternoon, and my large sandwich loaf slightly got away from me on baking time, so it's a little bit more browned, but it's still delicious. My trial loaf I have set to be with dinner in 2 nights, so I put that away up in the microwave. The microwave in our home is just for storage, so it's my favorite place to store bread. Thank you so much for spending a few moments with me as I shape loaves and talk about a little of our health history and journey onto making our home a homemade home. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and like, and I'll see you next time.